What are you working on in the kitchen? Oh, nothing. It's just a little treat. It's pixie dust. Yes, that's it. Pixie dust. You know, this pixie dust is remarkably similar to the shavings of a unicorn horn. Oh, no, 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 no. No such thing. It's an old family recipe for pixie dust. Yes. And you call it pixie dust despite the fact that it is obviously shavings from a unicorn horn. Why, yes. Oh, what a long trip and a long day. I'm pooped. Well, yes, I suppose I should be heading out. Good Lord, what is happening over there? Aurora Borealis. Aurora Borealis. At this time of year, at this time of night, in this part of the country, localized entirely around unicorn mythology. Yes. May I see it? No. Death of a Unicorn is the latest film from A24. It is written and directed by Alex Sharfman, who produced Resurrection as well as House of Spoils. One of those was better than the other. I'm not saying that it's necessarily his fault, but House of Spoils, why do they keep wasting Ariana DeBose in movies that are not very good? She's nowhere near this, but you know who is? Jenna Ortega, who was in X and also in Scream 5 and Beetlejuice, and precocious, talented, just so great for horror, such a great talented actress. In all seriousness, Jenna Ortega, the sky's the fucking limit for her. To think she's just turning 23 this year and she already has a wealth of experience in films under her belt. She plays Ridley, who is the daughter of Elliot, played by Paul Rudd, who apparently refuses to goddamn age. Look at Paul Rudd over the last 25 years. It's astonishing. Paul Rudd's been in a lot of goddamn films. They have suffered, somewhat recent loss, and to Bond, because he's never exactly been the best father. He's always been kind of distant. He's been going the distance. He's been going for speed. He's been going all alone in her time of need. Okay, can I reference more songs in this review? Possibly. But that being said, they take a trip with a very, very Canadian pilot in the opening. My goddamn goodness. So Canadian, I half expected Dudley Do-Right to be rescuing somebody tied to the tarmac. Boy, his girlfriend certainly loved that horse, didn't she? Let's get back to this movie. Speaking of horses, yes, Death of a Unicorn involves, wait for it, the death of a unicorn. Because while driving along, there's some weird electrical interference, even though they're trying to have some bonding. And Jenna is vaping. Perhaps in real life too, whatever. You want to poison yourself, that's your business. But that being said, they're driving along, electrical interference. Paul Rudd's trying to call in that he's on his way for this meeting. It's a very important meeting. When suddenly something crosses in the road, they hit it, and it turns out to be a unicorn. A unicorn that isn't doing all that well, because unicorns really don't get hit by cars very often. I mean, maybe they do in your world. What color is the sky in your world? I don't know. What color is the sky in this world? Blue. Seemingly blue. That being said, Ridley sees the unicorn, feels bad, and ends up touching the horn. And after experiencing some form of euphoria, then basically things get really goddamn strange from there. That's about all I can do for non-spoilers. That's kind of spoiling the first little bit, but it's called Death of a Unicorn, so if you don't expect the death of a goddamn unicorn, it's not a metaphor, it's not an innuendo, or innuendo, as it were. It is basically a dark comedic creature feature with other actors. You can't just do it with those two. Even as talented as they are, you have to have a CGI unicorn as well. You also have Richard E. Grant, who he's a pretty good character actor. You also have Tia Leone in her first role in 14 years. What a peaceful 14 years that was for me. Yes, I've never really cared for Tia Leone. I don't hate her as a person, but there are certain actors, actresses that just irk you. Everybody has. There are ones that they just can't stand. Tia Leone's one of those. Or Tia Leone, or whatever. The one that was married to Jim Carrey for a while, or dating Jim Carrey, I forget what. She plays the mother, and she plays Belinda. And basically also you have Will Poulter. You'll recognize him. He plays Shepard. They're, a father, mother, and a son, and they have hired help. One in particular, Griff, Anthony Kerrigan, who steals the fucking show in every scene he's in. I'm just going to say that right now. I don't know what else this guy has been in. He looks somewhat familiar, but I probably need to dive into more of his filmography. And if he hasn't done all that much, they need to fucking have him in more shit. I'm serious. A24, Neon Studios. I'm not saying lock this man down, let him do stuff, but just make sure that you get him in more films, because he was magnificently funny. And that's the big thing about this film, actually, is it's darkly comedic and pretty much hits 90% of its jokes. It's a rip-roaring riot, a total goddamn blast, a teetotal goddamn blast, as it were. It is hilarious. It is funny. It has some good body horror and some gore. Really, the only complaint I have is the not wonky CGI, but I think had it had a much bigger budget, I don't think it would have been nearly as good as it was, because it would have felt very commercialized. Some of the CGI, a little bit wonky. But that being said, as far as Alex's, foray into doing feature film directing and writing, he does a really good job here. It also helps that the cast is pretty goddamn funny, and it just has the right amount of just, serious moments to just add a little bit of levity, but doesn't get really too far into the preachy side. At least for me, it didn't. I ended up seeing a special screening of this, driving 40 goddamn miles to one of my favorite theaters. See, if I didn't hate Seattle so much, I'd live near that theater. And then I'd probably be I'd probably be spending all my goddamn money just to live, because rent is really high. That being said, great theater. If you're on the first floor, it's a 4-floor area. You get your ticket checked, you go to the first floor, 1 through 7, and you're fine. And this was in theater 1, so I was lucky. Enough about my trip. Let's talk about the movie. I want to shout one particular person, Sunita, Manny, where has she been hiding? The first time I saw her, Sunita Manny, I'm like, fuck, she is beautiful. Absolutely goddamn hilarious. Man, beautiful. It's also hilarious. She has some really good lines in this, some that I'll talk about in the spoiler section. But this is a whole lot of fun. And it's like 95 to 98 minutes before the credits start rolling. By the way, one spoiler, there are no mid or end credit scenes, so you can leave, when the credits start rolling if you'd like. But it's fun, it's lighthearted, it's silly, and it ends up working pretty well. Okay, there are maybe a few, not necessarily pacing issues, but just a few things where I'm like, okay, how in the world did these characters get over there? And, well, these character motivations tend to change just a little bit, but it has so much fun and such a lighthearted nature about it, that even when the gore and the blood starts flowing, it just really, really hits, and I just really ended up enjoying it. But again, Sunita, my goodness, but Anthony Carrigan, tremendous, magnificent, hilarious. Paul Rudd, Jenna Ortega have tremendous chemistry. This is all around tremendous. It is going to be in theaters very, very soon, this weekend, in fact. I'm going to get into spoilers, guy. I got a few things to say, so 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So, basically, Paul Rudd is kind of like the lawyer reading, I guess, sort of the last rites, so to speak, for Odell, Richard E. Grant's character, because he's dying of cancer. Fuck cancer, just want to say that. Everybody's known somebody that's either suffering from it or has suffered and unfortunately passed, and know people that have beaten it. Fuck cancer, that's all I gotta say. But while on their way to this meeting, they end up hitting the unicorn, and after Jenna grabs the horn, there's a dirty joke there that one could make, but I am above such things. So she's experiencing all this crazy stuff. The mother did recently pass away, or at least in the last couple years, I believe, passed away from cancer, or a cancer-related illness, and basically, she touches the horn, and now she's experiencing this cosmic stuff. It's like those weird like peaches that some people would get, or folders that would have all the weird space dolphin stuff going on. At least I had that shit. I don't know if anybody else did. Nevertheless, yes, I am old when it comes to stuff from school. But then Paul Rudd tries to save her and beats the thing with a tire iron as it basically just dies. He beats the thing that, is suffering, but he beats the thing to death. Then they decide, well, wait a second, we saw Leopold's wildlife preserve. We saw a sign, injuring wildlife could, or killing wildlife could result in imprisonment. More on that in a bit. So they take it with them. They take the unicorn's body with them, and they're talking and everything, but Ridley's like, Dad, I'm trying to tell you what I saw and everything. We need to get the fuck out of here. This is not good. The instant they introduce Griff, I do have to say he's great. Jessica Haynes, by the way, or Hines, is actually pretty good as well. Um, but when they introduced Steve Park and Sunita Manning, I'm like, okay, where has she been hiding? Again, sorry, so sorry for gushing, but goddamn. So anyway, the idea is once is discovered that they have the unicorn horn, or they have the unicorn there, they decide they need to harvest it and everything. I did like the one line, it was from the trailer, but Will saying, I don't think I should be in swim shorts for this moment. Now, I have seen some criticisms and some critiques basically saying that this doesn't exactly dive into the minutia of how rich people are aloof, feel that they are above the law, and that they can harvest all these resources for themselves and leave everybody out in the cold. That's implied, pretty much flat out said a couple times, but I think it does a good enough job. I don't really think it needed to get into too much preachy stuff. We already have the fucking news and real life to remind us that that stuff's really fucking happening. This is supposed to be escapism. But Odell decides to kind of be a guinea pig, so to speak, because, we hear about all the healing properties of these unicorns, the unicorn horns and stuff like that. And there's, meanwhile, Ridley is studying up stuff that her mother basically took them to see. She took them to see some tapestries, some unicorn tapestries that apparently museums have. And it tells a story basically of unicorns being kind of kept captive, harvested for their properties, but then eventually some fucked up shit happens. Well, they managed to kill this unicorn, and now they're shaving off the stuff and doing the powder and doing all this and everything, and they're all rich, and they're going to be even more rich. Elliot, Paul Rudd's character, is excited because now that Odell's cancer is cured. Cancer? That's the biggest one, Will says, and I have a terrific delivery, by the way. A lot of great delivery in this, because I think a lot of people realized they understood the assignment, as the kids used to say. Meanwhile, Jenna Ortega is absolutely just upset, like, you don't understand, some really fucked up shit's gonna happen. I'm continuing to study this and everything, and something's not good. And there is the constant electrical interference, because the unicorn magic, I mean, what the fuck, we're dealing with unicorns. I mean, I don't really think we need to put a ton of logic in it. Griff, meanwhile, is always treated as, like, a guy, like, there's this one point where he says, Griff, can you get this? Wait, never mind. It's almost like Kiff from Futurama. Lower, lower, too low. Lower. Actually, you know what? Now I need to see, like, Anthony play Kiff in a movie. If they ever did a Futurama live-action movie, it probably wouldn't be good, but he'd do good as Kiff. That being said, they're curing their stuff, because Jenna Ortega discovered there was some unicorn blood on this towel. She ended up rubbing some of it on her acne, and it cured her acne. Also, while smashing with a tire iron, Paul Rudd got rid of his allergies, because he had allergies in the beginning of it. Then Odell decides to be a guinea pig, cancer gets cured, and they decide they want to replicate this stuff. Steve Park's like, well, you don't understand. It's so complex, we can't do that. Well, we got all this money and everything. We can just do this. What do you tell you? You're going to turn your back in the face of science? Elliot wants to earn a lot of money. He wants to be the right dad, but help out his daughter. He's kind of torn and everything. He wants to be a good dad, but also greed. And I mean, we can all identify with greed. Meanwhile, they keep hearing strange noises and everything, and there's Aurora Borealis in the very sky as opposed to in the ground, which would be really weird and proof that the planet is more fucked up than it already is. We see, eventually more unicorn. More unicorns, actually, because there are two more. It's kind of like Lamb, if Lamb was less obtuse. If you've seen Lamb, you know what I'm talking about. I liked Lamb. I can understand why some people didn't. But that being said, it turns out that it's a couple of unicorns, literally a couple. That's their kid, and oh boy, fucked up shit is going to go on. So Ridley has a psychic link to this, and shit's gonna go down. And eventually, when the unicorn gets Steve Park, and poor Steve Park, a great actor and everything, doesn't really make it very long in this. Gets gored. That's a deep cut for wrestling fans. And there's this hole in his chest, and he falls down, his guts spill out, all this. I mean, we see some of that, like, in Shadow, but really, really good stuff there. And then they're trying to get back because these unicorns are really not very fucking happy that they killed their kid. Meanwhile, Shepard decided that a great thing to do, because the powderized, little pixie stick like flasks of this unicorn horn, is to snort it at one point. But then he gets this cosmic awakening and stuff like that, and he's suddenly so much smarter, or thinks he's so much smarter. Really, I think he's just fucking up his own goddamn head, taking a substance that he probably shouldn't be fucking taking. And there's an implication later that he was some kind of drug addict, because rich, and you can get away with it. But, I did like at one point, there were a few times where they show him snoring it, and then one time he's smoking it in a fucking pipe, and he's cutting it with a credit card, or debit card, or whatever, and snorting it, while trying to come up with a plan to kill the parents. And meanwhile, the bright idea for Dr. Bhatia, if I got that wrong, I apologize. I really, really do. As if anybody watching this and involved in the movies, or anybody's going to be watching this that was involved in the movie, but that's Sunita Mani's character. She does cut the horn off. That pisses the parents off even more. Jenna Ortega is trying to desperately text her dad while they're going out on a hunting trip, because she realizes, reading these tapestries and reading all the stuff that she printed off, these unicorns can heal. They don't die. Guess what you're fucking doing? You just cut the horn off for the kid. Now you dented the kid even more. Now the parents are going to be pissed off. There's a great hunting scene with a lot of fog and everything, where the soldiers, the hired help, are getting picked off. Griff, meanwhile, is just like trying to like survive. I mean, he's not trying to like sacrifice anybody. He's just trying to protect himself. And there was one funny part with Sunita where she ends up trying to give the baby back unicorn sauce, not magical unicorn mayonnaise. That deep cut reference. Rest in peace, voice of Space Ghost, George Howe, I believe. That being said, she offers the baby back and says, on behalf of the humans, I hope this makes things cool. I don't know why that line got me, but it did. Great delivery there. She ends up then getting gored and torn apart. This is after Odell, by the way, tries to touch the horn and everything, and then gets gored right through the goddamn neck. And great scene, great stuff. Really fucking love that. Tia Leone ends up getting picked off at one point, gutted and everything. Tia Leone's dead. Hooray! Oh, just in the movie? No. I kid, of course. I'm sure she's a nice person. I just don't like her as an actress. But, yes, Anita has a really good death. I mean, it's unfortunate because she kind of got peer pressured into harvesting the horn, as Lur would say from Futurama. And Will Poulter's character basically is, snorting this stuff, smoking this stuff, and the idea is they are going to take this crossbow. There was this funny, side gag where Griff found the crossbow. They were going to take the old oxygen tank that Odell had before his cancer got cured and before he got, like that, to set one of the unicorns on fire, blow it up. Well, then Tia Leone gets killed, and that doesn't really work. Meanwhile, Elliot decides the bright idea to save his daughters to take the horn and lead them out into the woods so they can be safe. But then maybe it was actually a plan by both men all this time, because suddenly it's daytime. It really hard cuts to daytime. I know the sun rises quickly in some places, but whatever. So, Jenna Ortega falls out of the window that is seemingly in a castle, by the way, at this point. So, weird adding there. And then Unicorn shows up and, but realizes, hey, wait a second, she's one of the good ones. And Shepard had realized, studying this, that they need a maiden, a pure of heart. I don't know if Jenna Ortega's character would have qualified for that, but I digress. She ends up having both unicorns laid by her. So, for whatever reason, Shepard decides the great idea is to hogtie these things while the dead baby's over there, because they're more at peace with her. And then You know, Elliot shows back up with the horn during this time, and the second one gets hogtied. And Shepard's like, great, you did this for me. And then suddenly they end up getting in a fight, and he stabs him with a horn, and then Paul Rudd gets stabbed with the arrow. So there you go, that's it. So Paul Rudd's dead, and then there's the part where Will's character gets, like, just back kicked. I mean, back kicked and just bam, and it is good. It's good because it just welch. It's just fun. And Ridley's upset. Her dad's dead, and suddenly they look and they're like, she's good. He tried. He brought the horn back so our kid can be, normal and not stubby. So let's do unicorn magic. And they do this, and they do their horn magic and everything, and then turn from black to white, back to pure, because everything's cool. And everybody's back. Well, I mean, just Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega. But then Griff suddenly shows up because he escaped, and he brought the police. And since everybody's dead, naturally, they are blamed. Griff decides he's going to follow them. And then suddenly the unicorns are going. And the unicorns, go by Griff. And Griff just rolls up the window, sorry. And then the unicorns are going to go and rescue them. So they smash into the police car as we cut to credits. Are we going to get Death of the Unicorn 2? Death of a Unicorn? Possible. I mean, I don't think we're going to get a sequel. I hope this film does well. I do. I don't know what the budget is. I would imagine around $30 million. Maybe. But pretty good. Pretty entertaining. Actually, really good. In fact, great. I'm going to call it great. I'm going to give it an A+. Why? Because I had great fun with this movie, so shut your face. Nevertheless, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ricklin. I'll see you soon.